Yeah, welcome to the Making of Me podcast, where we explore the stories, experience, and defining moments that shape who we have become. Today's guest is John Salzwedel, a coach, speaker, and the author of Stop Living Life on the Table. After nearly 30 years in the insurance industry, John began asking deeper questions about purpose, responsibility, and what it truly means to build a life that aligns with who we are. Today, he helps people reduce mental noise, clarity, and take intentional steps towards more meaningful life. It's really a pleasure having you on the show, John.
Thank you, Benaya. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thank you. So, John, what were some about the experience or challenges that shape you into who you have become today?
I think, well, everything that happens to you in life shapes you in some way, shape, or
Yeah.
form. I think the most dramatic recent change was about 10 years ago now, I would say, when I started feeling a little bit out of alignment at my job. I was a CEO, owner of my own company, and surrounded by great people. It's a great industry. And
Yeah.
just one day, it started kind of creeping in where it was no longer feeling right, no longer feeling like I was supposed to be doing what I was doing. There was nothing, no big traumas, nothing huge happened. It just wasn't feeling right anymore. And I didn't know what to do about it. So I spent the next 3 or 4 years reading, listening to speeches, podcasts, talking to anyone who would talk to me about it, and ended up developing the program that turned into my coaching program. I sold my business and decided I wasn't going to be in that industry anymore. And again, nothing wrong with the industry. I don't want any of my friends that are still in it to get mad at me because it's a great industry, but it wasn't fitting me anymore. So I sold the business and went out on my own, began writing, speaking, and coaching people and trying to help them with the same issues that I had to deal with, because I think it's pretty common that people are just they're not mad, everything's working, it's
Yeah.
okay, but it just doesn't feel quite right. And it took me a long time to find my way through that, and I want to help people to get through it a little bit quicker.
Well, that is lovely. Part that you went through about asking some deep questions, and that make you to actually change the course of things. And now you're actually leading a whole lot of persons who are stuck in those particular moments to gain clarity. It's really amazing, and thank you for what you do. So many people appear successful on the outside, but feel unsettled. Why does that happen?
I think it happens because we change. We're
Hmm.
The person you are today is not the same person you were
Yeah.
10 years ago. And jobs change as well, but they don't necessarily change in the same directions. And that's one of the reasons I think it kind of sneaks up on people. They don't necessarily see things getting out of line. They see, okay, the job is good. I'm making money. I'm feeding my family. I have a car that works. I have a house that I like. Everything on the outside seems good, but inside they're feeling a little bit weird. And I think it's just because they're different people. They're growing in different ways. Their skills, their desires are a little bit different than they were when they started in whatever it is they're doing. And it's not just a work related thing. It can be any part of life where something you enjoy doing is no longer fun. And so you find other things to do, or you find other ways to do that. And so I think it really just comes down to, as people, we change. We're always changing.
Hmm.
And it's important to keep reconnecting with yourself to figure out who you are. Did I change? Is this different? And what's the very basis of who I am?
Yeah, what the really basis of who I am. And I think it just speak a whole lot of volume in that as time goes on, as to keep aging, there's a whole lot of different things we discover about ourselves. And yeah, we just want to kind of go in that direction from what we have always been known for. Yeah, amazing. Also, in your book, you talk about living life on the table. What does that phrase really means to you?
That phrase comes out of the business world. In the business world, when you put together a deal, you sell something or you get a contract, whatever. There's a phrase called that is we left some money on the table, which means we could have charged a little bit more money and still gotten the deal, so we
Yeah.
left a little bit of money on the table, something like that. And there's in whatever aspects of it there is. Well, I got to thinking that, we do that in life all the time. There is so much more that we can get out of life, that we can put into life than what we tend to do. And it's important to find out, to figure out what is that? What are those things? How can I be using who I am to the very most that I can be, so that when I get to the end, I want to look back and say, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
and I didn't leave any life on the table. I used it all up, and that's what I want for me and for everybody else. So that's what's behind that title.
Amazing. And thank you for sharing. So, what were some of the signs that someone may be out of alignment with what truly matters to them?
Sure. Yeah, that's a good question. The biggest sign for me, I guess, was that it was tough to get out of bed in the morning.
Mm,
It was no longer exciting. It wasn't a I just can't wait to get into work and do what it is that I'm doing. And the energy was less than it had been. I was far more likely to say, okay, yeah, that has to be done, but I'll do it tomorrow. I don't have to do it today. And so I would put stuff off, and I might surf the internet a little bit more when I should have been working. And it's just I wasn't excited to be in my job anymore.
mm,
And so when I noticed that, that's when I figured something's got to change, because I have always wanted to be a person that gets to work, works hard, and just constantly fills the time doing stuff that is productive. And I wasn't that anymore. And I think that's where I think those are the biggest signs for people. They're just no longer feeling the energy.
yeah. No longer feeling the energy compared to when it gets started, where everything
Right.
about the business, about the work was very intriguing and comes with, yeah, new energy and new perspective. At the time it gets filled up, that is when more like, the rethinking and, yeah, looking at it become more obvious. So you have actually said that responsibility is actually a form of freedom. Can you explain what you mean by that?
Responsibility gives freedom because we are able to focus on those things that really matter. So we have the a great example I like to give is actually in personal finance, and that is a budget. People don't like to have a budget. And quite often it's because I don't want, I worked hard for that money. I want to spend it however I want to spend
Yeah,
it. And yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. That makes perfect
yeah,
sense. The nice thing about a budget is it lets you do that, and it helps you to do that. By having the responsibility of having a budget, by putting everything together, you write down, you track, these are the things that I have to do, these are the things that are important to me. And if you follow that, then for me, one of the big things, if I went to a gas station, filled up the car, I'd also buy a can of soda and a candy bar. Well, those things aren't on my budget. And if I have a budget telling me, no, you don't have any soda money, you don't have any candy bar money, don't spend it. By staying responsible, by sticking with my budget, I don't spend the money on things that I don't really
yeah.
want. Instead, I set the money aside for those things I do want, saving up for a vacation or buying a new house or buying a new car, whatever that may be, even just paying the mortgage or the rent that you have now, any of the current bills out there. Staying responsible keeps you free to go after those things that you
Yeah.
really want and not waste your time on things that don't matter to you.
Having budget, taking those particular actions, staying responsible, actually more like, yeah, giving you layers of freedom, so in that you don't have to spend everything as you just came into it. Amazing. So many people actually talk about work-life balance. Why do you believe that that idea can sometimes be misleading?
I think it's wrong because work is part of life. It's not a
Yeah,
separate thing. Does anybody tell you I don't have sleep life balance? No, they
yeah,
just say I didn't get enough sleep.
yeah,
So I think we want to get balance,
yeah,
and we want to have balance between work and fun and responsibilities and other people and our family and
yeah.
just our own personal time doing stuff. So we want just balance, not work life balance, because that's too limiting.
Yeah, so true. I think the explanation you just give just speak for it because no one usually say more like our sleep-life balance, being that even if we have a longer time to sleep, no one complains that, yeah, it's just too much. But we have, yeah, it's a whole lot of insight to actually learn here. And thank you so much. So for someone who feels stuck now and uncertain about their next step, how can they begin to find clarity?
The first step that I talk about in my book is getting to know who you really are,
Mm,
really deep down inside who you are, not what's on the surface, but spend the time. What do you truly believe? And at the very base of you, and then your priorities from there. So for me, and I talk about this a lot in the book, the most basic thing about me is I'm a Christian. And I get my direction from Jesus, from the Bible, from what I see there and how I interpret that. And I can, with a full understanding of that, that helps me look at anything that's going down the road. Does this match what I believe? And that's my most basic one. And I have lots of other ones that go beyond that. None of them conflict with that because that one comes first. And then I look at the next ones on the list. Okay, this belief is okay because it doesn't conflict
Yeah.
with my Christianity. And right on down the line. That helps you to see, okay, these are the things that are important to me. These are the things both in my beliefs and in the people in my life. And then you look at your skills and what you just like to do. That helps you to build that. But the very, very most important thing, and I tell people you should do this at least once a year, if not more often, sit down and write out what you believe.
Yeah, amazing. I think that exercise is very lovely because sometimes we don't know what to actually believe or think until we actually get to pen them down. Amazing. Thank you for sharing. So you have mentioned that sometimes people need to take money out of the questions when thinking about purpose. What does that mean?
Yeah, actually, taking money out of the question is it's kind of helps with ethical questions. Sometimes we're
Hmm.
all faced with decisions all day long. And is this one right? Is this one wrong? Is this one what I should be doing? And what I have found is if you're making a decision where there's any aspect of money inside it, the money will get in the way of making the right decision because money doesn't tend to help you make good ethical
Yeah.
decisions. So you take money out. You say, okay, what would I decide here if I wasn't going to get that $1,000? Would it still be the right decision to make? Whatever the money part might be, take it out. Would I still make that decision, or what decision would I make if there was no money involved in it? And any decision that you're having trouble with where money's involved, that can be a great way to
Yeah.
clarify what the question actually is and to take it back to what you believe is right.
Yeah, amazing. Taking away our money from the blueprint, so you can actually make the correct judgment on why should I actually more like on it. Because once money is involved, definitely the one with a lot of money gets to win at the end of the day. Yeah, amazing. So, what is the simple question people can ask themselves that often bring immediate clarity after about their directions?
One question that can be huge is about the people in your life. What person is most important in your
Yeah.
life after you? And that can often help you in your decisions and your planning, just in the time you're going to spend. Whoever that person is, they're going to need your time somehow. You can think about, how am I going to help that person or take care of that person, take care of that relationship because it is so important to me. So that can be a great way to help clarify the next step, because maybe you have an option coming up. For me, the most important person in my life after Jesus is my wife. And maybe I have a job opportunity that comes up, but I'd have to be gone for 6 months. Well, she wouldn't like that. It wouldn't be good for her.
Yeah.
It helps me to see clearly that probably isn't the right choice, or I have to look at it in a different way and take her along with me or something like that. But it helps me to decide how decisions are going to impact the people around me. That helps me clarify some of the decisions.
Yeah, I think this is really lovely way of actually more like making decisions, being that you're considering every other indices in place to know how does this actually more like affect, yeah, every part of more like the decisions, especially the key ones that actually more like you can't ignore. Yeah, it's really amazing. Thank you so much. So,
Right.
John, tell us about your book and the lovely insight you want my audience to actually get from it by buying the book and reading it.
My hope for the book, it comes out of that same struggle that I had in finding my own purpose. And during that time, I felt hopeless and just distraught, and I don't want anybody else to feel that way. And so I start off the book just talking about finding out what you believe in and nailing that down, figuring out the people that are important to you, and the skills, things that you like to do. And nailing all of that down before you even look at, what do I want my perfect future to look like? That comes later, because until you really know who you are, it's all going to be surfacey. And we have so
Yeah.
many things outside of us that are telling us what we're supposed to like, what success is supposed to look like. You're supposed to have a big house and millions of dollars in the bank and a shiny car and great food that you can take pictures of and post online. Those are all the things that social media, friends, TV will tell us. If you have those things, then you're successful. Well, that's not necessarily true. For some people, it is. And there's nothing wrong with that if that's what your definition of success is. But you have to figure out what your definition of success is. And when you do that, then you can build it step by step, little tiny step by little tiny step, because you figure out, I want to go to this place way, way far away. How do I get there? And you're not going to get there in one big step. An example I use on that is when an airplane, if it's flying from Chicago, Illinois to Houston, Texas, it's basically traveling south. But when the plane takes off, it's not pointing at Houston. It might be pointing at Phoenix, Arizona, which is out west. But because of the winds and because of all the things that happen, it moves you back and forth. Well, that's how life works. You take your steps in the direction that you think is appropriate towards your direction, and then you make adjustments every step along the way. Each time you take a step, you can see a little bit further for your next step or the step after that. And it makes it just a whole lot easier if you don't try to take the whole thing in one big step. So that's kind of the hope for my book, and I put the little structure in there for people to follow. And I talk about what we're trying to handle in a certain chapter, because I give ideas on how to do it, but everybody also has their own ideas. I have a section on time management, and some people have a notepad that they use. Some use a Franklin planner. Some have a computer. If it works for you, keep using it. The idea we're doing there is organizing our time. But talking through that, and just to give people ideas to hopefully give them hope as they go through life, that life can be fun and rewarding, and you don't have to want what everybody says that you're supposed to want.
Yeah, yeah. Life can be fun and amazing. And you don't have to want what. And I think, yeah, that's really lovely. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. So, John, from our audience who would love to connect with you and reach out, either to getting your books or reaching out for coaching sections or any particular deals, how can they reach out to you, and where's the best platform?
The easiest way is I have a special webpage set up for people that see me here, and it is www.thecoach.vip/podcast. And you go there, there's information, links to my book, to my coaching, to my speaking, anything I'm working on will show up somewhere in there. And I'm always happy to get emails from anyone, and that's just john@thecoach.vip.
Thank you so much, John. Thank you for reminding us that success alone does not really bring fulfillment. Sometimes the quiet feelings of being unsettled is not failure. It's an invitation to pay attention, reflect, began building a life that truly is aligned with who we are. Thank you so much for all my audience who are listening. Thank you for listening to the Making of Me podcast. And if you want to reach out to Dan, check the show note for the link to his website so that you can actually reach out. Once again, it's a pleasure and honor having you on the show, John.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to be here. And to you and everyone else, have a fantastic day.